The phone rang at 3 in the morning, and I knew something was wrong. Nothing good ever happens at 3 in the morning. My husband Richard wasn't in bed next to me. He had left 2 hours earlier, saying he had an emergency work meeting in the next city. At 3 in the morning. On a Tuesday. I should have known then, but I didn't want to believe it. When I picked up his phone from the nightstand, a woman's voice came through, sharp and angry. "Put my husband on the phone," she said. Not, "Can I speak to Richard?" Not, "Is this the right number?" She said my husband. Those 2 words made my whole world crack like thin ice under heavy boots. Before we go any further, please hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss an update. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We absolutely love hearing from you, no matter where you are in the world. My name is Sarah, and I'm 34 years old. I live in Atlanta with my 2 children, Emma who is 9, and Jake who is 6. Or at least, I thought I knew who I lived with. I thought I knew my husband. We had been married for 11 years. 11 years of birthdays, holidays, school plays, and family dinners. 11 years of believing I knew the man sleeping next to me every night. Well, most nights. "Who is this?" I asked the woman on the phone, my voice shaking. "I'm Nicole," she said. "And I want to know why my husband Richard Patterson's phone is in your house at 3 in the morning. Richard Patterson. That was my husband's name. My heart started beating so fast I thought it might jump right out of my chest. I sat down on the edge of the bed because my legs suddenly felt like water. "Richard Patterson is my husband," I said quietly. "We've been married for 11 years. We have 2 children." There was silence on the other end. Complete, total silence. Then I heard her breathing fast and shallow, like she had just run up a flight of stairs. "That's impossible," Nicole whispered. "I've been married to Richard for 8 years. We have a son. His name is Tyler. He's 5 years old." The room started spinning. I put my hand on the bed to steady myself. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like me. I was a regular mom. I drove a minivan. I packed lunches. I helped with homework. My life was boring and predictable and safe. Except it wasn't. It had never been safe. I just didn't know it. "Where are you?" I asked Nicole. "Memphis," she said. "Where are you?" "Atlanta." We were both quiet again, letting this impossible truth sink into our bones. My husband, the man who kissed me goodbye every morning and called me sweetheart, had another wife 3 hours away. He had another home. Another family. Another life. "How often is he with you?" Nicole asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it for the first time. "About half the week," I said slowly. "He travels for work. Or that's what he always told me. He works in sales. Big territory. Lots of clients." "He told me the same thing," Nicole said, and I could hear her crying now. "He's gone 3 or 4 days every week." I thought he was working. Building a future for our family. He was building something, all right. He was building 2 separate lives, 2 separate families, and keeping them apart like pieces on a chessboard. And we were the pieces. We were the ones being moved around, lied to, kept in the dark. "I need to see you," I said suddenly. "We need to meet. We need to figure this out together." "Yes," Nicole agreed. "Tomorrow. I'll drive to Atlanta. We need to know everything." We exchanged numbers and hung up. I sat there in my bedroom, in the house I thought I knew, holding a phone that had just destroyed my entire life. I looked at the pictures on the dresser. Richard and me on our wedding day. Richard holding baby Emma. Richard at Jake's soccer game. Every single picture was a lie. Every smile was fake. Every moment was built on sand. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I got up and went to Richard's home office. I had never looked through his things before. I trusted him. What a fool I had been. I started opening drawers, looking through files, checking his computer. And that's when I found the first piece of real evidence. A credit card statement I had never seen before. Charges in Memphis. Lots of them. Restaurants. Gas stations. A furniture store. He had bought a whole couch in Memphis, and I had never known about it. Then I found more. Receipts tucked into a folder marked, expenses. Plane tickets to Birmingham, Alabama. Why Birmingham? We didn't know anyone in Birmingham. Or at least, I didn't. My stomach dropped. Birmingham. Was there someone else in Birmingham too? How big was this web of lies? When Richard came home at 6 in the morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table with all the papers spread out in front of me. He walked in smiling, holding a coffee cup, ready to kiss me good morning like he always did. "Sarah?" he said when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" I picked up his phone and held it up. "Nicole called," I said simply. The color drained from his face. He froze in the doorway like a statue. His mouth opened but no words came out. And in that moment of silence I knew. Everything Nicole had told me was true. Everything I had feared was real. My husband was a stranger, and my life was a lie. Nicole arrived at my house the next afternoon. I had sent the kids to my mother's house without explaining why. I couldn't explain it. I didn't have the words yet. When I opened the door, we just stared at each other for a long moment. She looked like me. Same age, same tired eyes, same wedding ring on her finger. We were mirrors of each other, two women who had loved the same man and never knew the other existed. "Come in," I said, and she did. We sat in my living room, the same living room where Richard had played with our children hundreds of times, and we started talking. Really talking. We compared stories like detectives solving a crime. And that's exactly what we were doing. We were solving the crime of our stolen lives. Richard had told Nicole he worked Monday through Wednesday in Atlanta. He told me he worked Thursday through Saturday in other cities. Sundays he alternated between us, always with an excuse about why he couldn't stay. A sick parent. A work emergency. A friend in need. He had an excuse for everything, and we had believed every single one. "I found plane tickets to Birmingham," I told Nicole, spreading the papers on my coffee table. "Do you know anything about Birmingham?" Nicole's face went pale. "He has a cousin there," she said slowly. "Or that's what he told me. He visits her once a month. Stays overnight." "Does he have a cousin in Birmingham?" I asked. "I don't know," Nicole whispered. "I've never met any of his family. He always said they were distant, that they didn't get along." I hadn't met his family either. Not once in 11 years. He said they had died when he was young. Now I wondered if they even existed at all. Maybe everything about Richard Patterson was a lie. Maybe even his name was fake. "We need to find out if there's someone in Birmingham," I said. Nicole nodded. "How?" I picked up one of the receipts. It was from a restaurant called the Southern Table in Birmingham. "We call this restaurant. We ask if Richard Patterson is a regular customer. We see what they say." Nicole pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She dialed the number while I sat next to her, barely breathing. A woman answered, cheerful and warm. "Hi," Nicole said, her voice surprisingly steady. "My name is Nicole and I'm trying to reach my husband. He eats at your restaurant sometimes. His name is Richard Patterson. Has he been in recently?" There was a pause. Then the woman said, "Oh, Mr. Patterson. Yes, he and his wife come in all the time. Lovely couple. They were here just last week." Nicole's hand started shaking so hard I thought she would drop the phone. "His wife?" she repeated. "Yes, ma'am. Pretty woman, dark hair. Always orders the chicken. Is there a message you want me to give them?" Nicole hung up without answering. We sat there in complete silence. 3 wives. He had 3 wives. 3 families. 3 entire lives running at the same time like parallel train tracks that were never supposed to meet. "We have to find her," I said. "We have to find the woman in Birmingham." It took us 2 days of searching, but we found her. Her name was Lisa Martinez, and she lived in a small house on the east side of Birmingham. Nicole found her through Facebook, searching through Richard's old tagged photos from years ago, photos he had forgotten to delete. There was Lisa, smiling next to Richard at a restaurant. The Southern Table. The same restaurant from the receipt. I sent Lisa a message. Simple and direct. "My name is Sarah. I'm married to Richard Patterson. I think you might be too." She called me within an hour, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "I've been married to him for 6 years," she cried. "We have a daughter. Her name is Mia. She's 4 years old. 3 wives. 3 children. One man living 3 completely separate lives like he was playing a video game where none of the levels connected. Lisa drove to Atlanta that same night. She couldn't wait. She needed to see us, to know this was real, to understand that she wasn't going crazy. When she walked into my house and saw Nicole sitting on my couch, she burst into tears all over again. We all cried together, 3 women who should have been enemies but were instead united by the same enormous betrayal. How did he do this? Lisa asked, wiping her eyes. How did one person keep track of 3 entire families? Very carefully, Nicole said bitterly. And with a lot of lies. We spread everything out on my dining room table. Every receipt, every bank statement, every credit card charge, every plane ticket, every suspicious text message we had saved. It looked like a detective's murder board, except the murder was our trust, our lives, our futures. Richard had 3 separate bank accounts, 3 credit cards, 3 insurance policies. He had filed taxes 3 different ways. He had even used 3 different social security numbers on some documents, which meant he wasn't just a cheating husband. He was a criminal. He had committed fraud, identity theft, and bigamy across 3 states. We need to take him down, I said, looking at both women. Not just divorce him. We need to make sure he faces real consequences. I want him arrested, Lisa said, her voice hard as stone. I want him to lose everything, Nicole added. The way he made us lose everything. We made a plan that night, the 3 of us sitting around my dining room table like generals planning a war. We would gather every piece of evidence. We would document every lie. We would build a case so strong that Richard couldn't talk his way out of it, couldn't charm his way free, couldn't run away to start over somewhere else. And then we would confront him together. All 3 wives. All 3 victims. All 3 women he had underestimated. Richard thought he was smart. He thought he was careful. He thought he could keep juggling 3 lives forever without dropping a single ball. He was wrong. If you're still with us, please take a moment to like this video, share it with anyone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to our channel. We want to know where you're watching from, so drop a comment below. Your support means everything to us. We spent the next 2 weeks building our case like lawyers preparing for the biggest trial of their lives. Nicole took charge of the financial records. She was an accountant, and she knew exactly what to look for. She found fake expense reports Richard had submitted to his company, claiming travel costs that never happened. He had been stealing from his employer for years, padding his pockets with money meant for business trips that were actually visits to his other families. Lisa tracked down every property record, every lease agreement, every utility bill. She discovered that Richard had rented all 3 houses under slightly different versions of his name. Richard Patterson in Atlanta. Richard P. Thompson in Memphis. Rick Patterson in Birmingham. Small changes that kept the paper trail separate but not separate enough once we knew what to look for. I focused on the timeline. I made a calendar showing where Richard had been every single day for the past year. When he told me he was in Memphis, he was actually in Birmingham. When he told Nicole he was in Atlanta, he was actually in Memphis. The lies overlapped and twisted like tangled rope, but we untangled every single knot. We also contacted lawyers. 3 different lawyers in 3 different states. They all said the same thing. Richard had committed bigamy, which was illegal everywhere. He had committed fraud against his employer. He had filed false tax returns. He was facing serious criminal charges, not just divorce. But we wanted more than jail time. We wanted him to understand what he had done. We wanted him to face all 3 of us at the same time and see the damage he had caused. We wanted him to know that we knew everything. We chose a Saturday afternoon. Richard was supposed to be at my house that weekend. Nicole and Lisa arrived an hour before he was due home. We sat together in my living room, waiting. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. This was it. The moment everything would come crashing down around him. When Richard walked through the door at 3 o'clock, he was smiling. He had grocery bags in his hands, probably planning to cook dinner for me and the kids like he did sometimes. Like a normal husband. Like a normal father. Like he wasn't living 2 other lives in 2 other cities. He saw Nicole first. His smile froze on his face. Then he saw Lisa sitting next to her on the couch. The grocery bags fell from his hands and hit the floor with a crash. Apples rolled across the kitchen tile. Sarah, he said, his voice shaking. I can explain. No, I said, standing up. You can't. There is no explanation good enough for this. Sit down, Richard. We need to talk. He looked at the door like he might run. Nicole stood up and crossed her arms. You can run if you want, she said coldly. But the police already have copies of everything we found. Running just makes it worse. Richard sat down slowly in the chair across from us. His face had gone completely white. He looked smaller somehow, like a balloon losing air. How long have you known? He whispered. Long enough, Lisa said. Long enough to find every lie. Every fake receipt. Every forged document. Every stolen dollar. We took turns then, each of us presenting our evidence. Nicole showed him the financial records proving he had stolen over $50,000 from his company. Lisa showed him the property documents with his 3 different names. I showed him the timeline, every day mapped out, every lie highlighted in red marker. You have 3 families, I said, my voice steady and strong. 3 wives. 3 children who love you and trusted you. And you treated all of us like we were nothing. Like we were toys you could pick up and put down whenever you felt like it. Richard tried to speak several times but no words came out. What could he say? There was no defense. No excuse. No explanation that would make any of this okay. We've already filed for divorce, Nicole told him. All 3 of us. In 3 different states. We've reported the fraud to your company, Lisa added. They fired you this morning. And we've filed a police report, I finished. You're going to be arrested, Richard. Probably today. He put his head in his hands and started crying. Real tears, running down his face. But I felt nothing. No sympathy. No sadness. He had used up all my caring during 11 years of lies. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They put handcuffs on Richard right there in my living room and read him his rights. He looked back at us as they led him out the door, but none of us looked away. We watched him leave. We watched him face the consequences of his choices. After he was gone, the 3 of us sat in silence for a long time. Then Lisa started laughing. Not happy laughter, but the kind of laugh that comes when something is so terrible it circles back around to being almost funny. We did it, she said. We actually did it. Yes, Nicole agreed. We did. The divorce took months. The legal process was slow and complicated, especially with 3 wives in 3 states. Richard tried to fight it at first, but his lawyer told him he didn't have a chance. The evidence was too strong. The lies were too obvious. He eventually agreed to everything we asked for. He went to jail for 2 years for fraud and bigamy. His company sued him for the stolen money. He lost his house in Birmingham, his savings accounts, his car. Everything he had built through lies came crashing down around him. Meanwhile, the 3 of us started rebuilding. I sold the house in Atlanta and moved to a smaller apartment. I started my own consulting business, something I had always wanted to do but never had the courage to try. Nicole went back to school and got her master's degree. Lisa opened a bakery that became famous in Birmingham for its chocolate cake. We stayed friends, the 3 of us. We talked on the phone every week. We visited each other on holidays. Our children met and played together, cousins who would never have known each other if their father hadn't been caught. It wasn't easy. There were hard days when I cried and wondered how I had been so blind. There were nights when I couldn't sleep, thinking about all the wasted years. But slowly I healed. We all healed. I learned to trust my gut. I learned that when something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. I learned that the truth always comes out eventually, no matter how carefully someone tries to hide it. And I learned that I was stronger than I ever thought possible. My name is Sarah, and I survived a lie that lasted 11 years. I survived discovering that my husband was a stranger. I survived losing everything I thought was real. But I didn't just survive. I built something better. Something true. Something mine. And if you're reading this and something in your life feels wrong, if your gut is telling you to look closer, to ask questions, to dig deeper, then listen to it. Trust yourself. Find the truth, no matter how scary it might be. Because living in a lie is so much worse than facing a hard truth. And on the other side of that truth, there's freedom. There's strength. There's a life you can build on solid ground instead of sand. I found that life. And you can too.